Hey guys, if you've seen our newest video on Macintosh Monday 12 where we install Windows 3.1, then you might know that I've bought myself a brand new MacBook Air. And now, it is the time to take a closer look at it and figure out if the MacBook Air is indeed the perfect student laptop. The MacBook Air 7.2 was released in June of last year by, you've guessed it, Apple. The first thing you notice when you pick up one of these laptops is, wow, it indeed is really thin and light, and while the new MacBook is even thinner and lighter, but also smaller than the MacBook Air, it are the inner components that set the MacBook Air apart from the new MacBook and make it way better. It is powered by a dual-core processor, the Intel Core i5 5350U to be exact. It has a clock speed of 1.8 GHz and can boost up to 2.9 GHz. And in real-time usage, whatever task I threw at it, it had no hiccups or any slight lag. In combination with the 8GB 1600 MHz LPDDR3 RAM that it comes with, even heavier multitasking is possible without the MacBook Air showing any signs of weakness or struggling. The Intel HD Graphics 6000 with its 1.5GB of LPDDR3 SD RAM isn't the strongest graphics card, of course, but for the needs of a non-graphic designing student, more than capable enough. And also some small games or emulated classes can be played here and there as well. Actually, the only limiting factor that you will probably encounter while playing those small games would be the onboard SSD, which in this configuration is able to store up to 128GB of data. It's worth noting though, that you will effectively only be able to use 108GB of it, since macOS High Sierra also takes up quite a chunk. Now I can see you already writing in the comments, this isn't a lot of storage! And you're totally right, it isn't. But I for myself had a solution for this problem even before I was confronted with it. And it is one that I think even Tim Cook would agree is up to today's zeitgeist. I have been using the optional 1TB, now 2TB of Icloud Storage from Apple, which first of all gives me the storage I need that my MacBook Air lacks and even more actually, and secondly automatically syncs all my data up with every other Apple device that is connected to my iCloud account, so I'm able to access all my files wherever I want and with whatever device I have at my disposal. I also use Apple's streaming service Apple Music, so I don't even have to download all my music to my MacBook Air and can just stream it, which allows me to save a lot of space too. On the positive side though, the onboard SSD enables the MacBook Air to load programs really fast and make the overall experience in macOS feel seamlessly and fluent. It also allows the MacBook Air to boot in a ridiculously fast time frame. The front of the MacBook Air is dominated by a 13.3-inch LED backlit glossy widescreen with a native resolution of 1440 by 900. Of course, this isn't a display on par with the vibrancy, sharpness and brightness of a Retina display, but it is still a beautiful and sharp display that is more than enough for what I need it for, which is watching a HD YouTube video here and there, writing different Word and Excel files or browsing the web in general. So if you aren't someone who really needs that extra pixel count and color range, then trust me when I say that you'll surely find the MacBook Air's display just as great as I. Just above the display, Apple has decided to place a 720p FaceTime camera, which does a fine job for video chatting, and while it isn't the best camera I've seen, 1080p Apple, come on, I mean it's 2018, please, it's still good as a built-in webcam. Now let's talk ports. Yes, you've heard it right. Ports in the 2017 MacBook from Apple. Incredible, isn't it? The MacBook Air sports 2x USB 3.0. Yes, you've heard it right. 2x USB 3.0 in a MacBook in 2018. Thanks Apple, you're so kind to us. One is located on each side. It also has a Thunderbolt port, which can be used for several adapters, as well as video and audio transmission if you want to use it as a monitor, for example. Lastly, it also has, wait for it, a frickin' SD card reader! Sorry for my language, but it still baffles me that Apple's MacBook Air is the only MacBook in Apple's lineup to have such a port, especially considering how vital it is for pro graphic editing consumers. What the fuck, Apple? Lastly, the MacBook Air is powered through its built-in 54 watt-hour battery, which according to Apple can last for an incredible 12 hours while surfing the web or watching movies on iTunes, and up to 30 days of standby time. From my experience, the MacBook Air lasts for plus minus 10 hours in normal use, which really is remarkable and perfect for me as a student, since I don't have to fear that it will run out of charge even on longer university days. And the battery is charged through, thank heavens, MagSafe 2. That's right. So you'll still get the same amazing magnetically attached loading cable, which when you get caught up in it, won't take your MacBook for a fly, but just deattach. A feature that isn't so often seen anymore, since Apple did remove it from its newer MacBook and MacBook Pro for some reason that is so bewildering for me. The MacBook Air also comes with support for Apple's newest operating system, macOS High Sierra, and with that comes all the support for the newest versions of whatever software you want to use on your Mac. Well, that's if the company which has the software also supports macOS, which, believe it or not, is still nothing that you can take for granted in 2018, sadly. Also, say goodbye to getting noticed in the seminar room because the fans in your laptop are making an easily hearable noise when under load. I've been using the MacBook Air heavily in the last days, and there was never a single moment where I was able to hear the fans. They seem to be dead silent all the time, almost if they weren't even there. And I really have to hand it to Apple when it comes to the stereo speaker design of the MacBook Air. I was actually in shock and awe the first time I heard what kind of sound bandwidth and volume the MacBook speakers were able to produce. Plus I have to hand it also to Johnny Ive, the king of aluminumalism. I think I've got a clue where the speakers are hidden, but they are nowhere to be seen at all, and the sound they are able to produce in such a slim form factor is incredible to say the least. It is also the first laptop that I ever owned where I distinctively was able to differentiate while watching a video of Manfred and me between when I was standing left and when I was standing right. So props to Apple. You really outdone yourself when it comes to the speakers, and I'm not exaggerating. It is unlike anything I've heard before in a laptop. And regarding the cons of this MacBook Air, I have to disappoint you if you're a hater of it. I personally have not found a single negative point about this MacBook. The only thing I imagine that could annoy some of you would be that none of its components are changeable since everything is on the main board. It's a move which we kinda have to accept these days when it comes to Apple products, but I found it important to mention regardless. So in the end, guys, I think the statement is true. The MacBook Air 2017 edition is the perfect student laptop. From its characteristic thinness and lightness, which are perfect for student portability wise, to its ports, which the 2016 MacBook Pro and MacBook and upwards don't even have. And when you then factor in that it has a Core i5 dual core, which still with its 8GB of RAM is more powerful, and that's proven in fact than the MacBook, and this is the only Mac again that I can recommend to any student out there. Please don't be like those, I have to say it, knowing less and sometimes stupid actually because they know but still buy it, students out there that go around with a MacBook Pro 2016, 2017, I don't know, laptop that costs over $1,700, which for sure they didn't buy themselves, or at least blew all their money they had in it. Please don't be that one student we all know that goes around with that €1,700 MacBook Pro, thinks he's so cool when he's surfing the web and just going browsing through his emails and doing some bird stuff. But to be honest and tell you the truth, you don't look cool, you look like a total rich idiot. And Apple's always proclaiming, well, the future is wireless, the future is wireless. Well, as you've seen before, even with my MacBook Air, I am doing what Apple wants. I'm using Apple Music, I'm using iCloud. And yes, this is the future. Cloud-based storage is the future, I agree with Apple. But the MacBook Air does it in a way, introduces us to the wireless world in a way which is perfect, seamless, and how it should be, and not in this eat or die concept like with the MacBook or the MacBook Pro. When I argue with MacBook and MacBook Pro enthusiasts that like the new models, I always like to cite Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs had a saying once and always said this is their big #1 motto that they follow at Apple. He said, form and design and thinness should never never compromise on functionality. And the new MacBook and MacBook Pro obviously show that Apple has forgotten what Steve always preached. And maybe some of you are now screaming at the display, well, he's only trying to make the MacBook Air look good. Instead of dated, only has a broadwell CPU, it doesn't have a Retina display, and this and this and this, and doesn't have that gimmicky touch bar that nobody uses, but I want it anyway. No, but let's be honest, guys. We're talking about a student laptop. If you're not a graphics student that needs much laptop power on the go, why would you need anything more than this? This is actually for my use of Word and email and internet and watching YouTube videos here and there and stuff and so on, and even playing some little games. This is already too much, actually. I had a MacBook 2008, the first MacBook with the unibody design. Power-wise, yes, sometimes it took a bit to load, but power-wise, it would have been enough. And we're talking about a 2008 laptop, and this is a 2017 laptop. And let's be honest, guys, if you're not like a graphical student or anything of that regard, you're just buying the MacBook Pro and the MacBook to show off or in some way make you feel cooler than in fact you are, because, as I said, you kind of look stupid when you buy such an expensive laptop and don't use it at all. And this actually is one of the big reasons why I'm making this video. First of all, to show you that this MacBook, the MacBook Air 2017, has the best price-performance ratio out of any MacBook right now available. And second of all, to make people stop. Make them stop buying overpriced MacBooks that have a horrible, I say it again, the MacBook Pro, fine, if you need the power, if you really need the power, if you're like, I know a university that actually requires you to buy this MacBook Pro. Alright, I get that then. But if you're one of those students, and I don't want to offend anyone because I know probably someone's watching this from a MacBook 2016 or later, if you're really one of those students with a MacBook, that's my opinion at least, you made a horrible deal when it comes to price and performance. Because, I have to say it, if you bought the entry MacBook, you paid $500 more and I have the better laptop. I mean, it's the fact, you can look it up. Yes, you have the Retina display and stuff like that, and yes, you have the butterfly keyboard, which in my opinion is horrible, but still, I prefer this one on the MacBook Air because it has some travel, but this is your decision anyway. But power-wise, my MacBook Air wins, and I'm not seeing it. Why should I pay so much only for the Retina display when this display, in fact, is all I need? And I don't get why the Retina display and the portability always are the main point defending the MacBook. Because the portability, yes, it's there, and it is really portable and the most portable MacBook out there. But you're compromising on so much, on all the ports, on all the functionality, the performance, to get to this portability. This doesn't make sense, guys. And to pay more for that, guys, this is not worth it. My MacBook Air will last longer than your MacBook power-wise. I promise you that. And yes, guys, this is one of the MacBooks that still has the glowing Apple logo and, when rebooted, still has the ball. And with all this being said, I can 100% confirm you guys, the MacBook Air 2017 is the perfect student laptop. This is me, David, signing off. Have a good one.